You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Adler and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 632, our breakdown of the Maul Shadow Lord trailer, a trailer that we've been waiting for quite some time. Well, some of us got to see it back at Celebration last year. One of them is with me tonight, Chris. Chris, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so you got a chance to see this. I know you've been waiting. We talked about it on the 2026 preview show, but you've been waiting to see something more than that, since for about almost a year now. Mm-hmm. How did this trailer do for you, or what did it do for you after waiting so long?
So what was cool, what I enjoyed about the trailer is that it was actually all new footage. And
yep.
When we saw the original, I guess, sizzle reel in Celebration, you could tell that there was still some work to be done as far as cleaning up the animation. But at that point, the animation looked great, right? What I saw today, I kind of proved the theory that I had, and I mentioned this in previous shows, that if they were going to go with that style of animation that we saw back in Japan, it was going to be the most beautifully animated show that Lucasfilm Animation has ever done.
Right,
and this really proved that. The sabers look clean and crisp, the cleanest and crisp I've seen probably since the prequels. I mean, if you talk live action, and then the movement seemed a lot more smooth. I mean, it's night and day compared to what I saw today in that trailer, and then what we first saw when Clone Wars debuted. It's night and day. I'm pumped, and I think this looks beautiful, and I'm just excited for this.
Yeah, man. I agree. And we'll get into all that here in a little bit too, because we're going to break down not only the trailer, but there was also a Star Wars article that was released today with a lot of information, packed with information, some insights into what we can expect with the show release and when it's going to come out, and a couple other things as well. We got a movie poster, but we'll get into all that here in just a minute. Before we get started, you want to say thank you first off to everybody that's joined us for the live recording tonight. Appreciate you guys being in the chat. Feel free to shout out something down in the chat if you'd like. We'll take questions and do whatever we can to kind of get to that stuff as time permits. But I also want to say thank you to all of our Patreon members, especially our now part of the tribe members: Alex, Danny, Dante, Daz, I've got a Brad feeling, Jackson, Jacob, Josh, Mike, Paisley, Rita Reborn, Risk Bayless, Sharkman Dan, and Uncle Leon. And our top tier, which is our Delusions of Grandeur tier, that is Now This Is Rod Racing, Rob, and Steve. Thank you guys so much for all your patronage, and certainly for being supportive of this show and allowing us to continue to do as many episodes as we do. We've also got YouTube memberships that are out there. If you want to sign up, if you're watching us on YouTube, well, you are, because it's the only place we go. But on YouTube, you can actually sign up for a YouTube membership. It's like $1, and you get some cool icons and stuff. So quick shout out to those folks: Luminara, Katya, Kathy, My Star Wars Guys, and Nikki. Thank you guys for being members there. And if you're interested in Patreon, I've got the QR code in the corner of the screen. You can scan that, and we start like at $2, and it gives you the back catalog of all the audio episodes that we've done over, I don't know, the last 10, 15 years now. So there's a lot of content there to absorb. So thank you guys, if you don't, just for being here and supporting the show. Quick update on what we're doing this coming month here. So we've got Lauren right now has a sneak peek video out on YouTube. It is of Low Red Moon. This is the newest book by Mike Chen. It takes place, it's a prequel to the Star Wars Outlaws game. I've got the book here and I haven't had a chance to read it yet. This comes out on February 3rd, but her sneak peek right now is a non-spoiler review. It's kind of her initial thoughts, impressions, and whether or not she feels like, hey, if I didn't play the video game, should I read this book? And I think the short answer for her is yes. And I would say yes from what I've read so far. It's definitely worth taking a look at, especially if you're a fan of Star Wars novels. And Mike Chen is a great writer. So he's one of our blessings, honestly, in the written space. So looking forward to that. So check that out. She'll have her full video, spoilers and all, coming on February 3rd when the book releases. So expect that here not too much longer. And then Chris and I are going to be here this weekend for a Patreon episode. So we're going to bring some Patreon members on, some friends of the show, and we're going to talk about the changes that are coming to Galaxy's Edge, specifically the original trilogy characters coming into Galaxy's Edge. We'll break all that down, tell you guys what you can expect coming up here this year when that transition happens, and maybe even talk about some, a lot of the people that we're going to have on the show have been to to the parks quite a bit. And there's some great stuff in there, some great tips and things that we want to share. So it'll be a fun conversation. It's a topic we don't normally talk about. Jonesy was a really big fan of the Disney parks, and he was kind of like the subject matter expert. And I've got like 3 or 4 that are coming on the episode now. So that should be a lot of fun. So please join us for that. That'll be Sunday night, 9 p.m. That'll be a Patreon exclusive. Please join us for that show as well. Okay. Before we go, let's get into this. Let's get into the breakdown. So we got the poster. I'm not going to pull it up. I don't know. Poster was cool. Wasn't really a whole lot to talk about. I mean, we had already seen the artwork for the most part. It just had the Disney Plus logo underneath it. But I do want to start with the article itself, because the article really did give us quite a bit of information. Everything from, again, the creative team to when it's coming out. So let's start there, and then we'll get into what we do here. If this is your first time joining us, we actually bring up the trailer, and we're almost going to go frame by frame on all of this stuff and just kind of point out things that stood out to us or talk about the things that we want to speculate on. So from a creative standpoint, this animation is going to have Dave Filoni was created as the creator. You've got Filoni and Matt Miknovitz, who's no stranger to animation, Star Wars animation. He's done a number of other things. Those are the developers. We've got Brad Rao, again, not a stranger if you've been following Star Wars, you know who's running what behind the scenes, is coming back as supervising director. And then the executive producers, you've got Dave Filoni, Athena Yvette Portillo, Matt Miknovitz, Brad Rao, Carrie Beck, and Josh Rhimes. And then you got Alex Spotwood as the co-executive producer. So this is in what I think probably the best hands for a Star Wars animation, a new Star Wars animation, because it's just these people have been doing it for a number of years, and a lot of them were behind the Bad Batch, a lot of them behind season 7 of the Clone Wars and Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Sith. Was it Tales of the Empire, not Sith? We haven't got that one yet, but so it's in good hands. But I guess when you see all this, how does this make you feel, knowing that we've got these kind of veterans, if you will, behind all the creative pieces of this?
Well, for me, I like this creative team. Again, you mentioned that they were behind the Bad Batch, they were behind Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Underworld, and those, especially those last 3 series, they were a little bit different tone than what we saw from like Clone Wars, Rebels, even Bad Batch to a certain extent.
Yeah,
and it takes it a tad bit darker, which I think needs to be done for this type of show. I mean, we're talking about Darth Maul and
the Underworld, yeah,
and the Underworld, exactly, the cutthroat underworld of Star Wars. So I think that this team, having had that experience with those previous series, taking it to a darker tone to an extent, I think that bodes well for this series. Not that it needed, that all, it all needs to be dark or darker going from here on out. I'm just saying that with the subject matter that we have, Darth Maul, the fallen Sith Lord, the betrayed Sith Lord, it needs to be a little bit darker. And I think this team will be able to pull it off.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're onto something. We'll talk a little bit more about the episodes and what we can expect. I mean, we're going to speculate because the trailer doesn't give you a whole lot of information. But something that did give us a little bit of information is kind of the synopsis they released as part of that article as well. So they've got this now. This is the updated synopsis. Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord picks up after the events of Star Wars Clone Wars. We knew that was already in place. For a pulpy adventure that finds Maul plotting to rebuild his criminal syndicate on a planet untouched by the Empire. That's a key point here in all of this. There, he crosses paths with a disillusioned young Jedi Padawan who may just be the apprentice he is seeking to aid him in the relentless pursuit for revenge. So not a lot there that's given away, I think, for the most part, but it does kind of set the scene for this series. Again, I said the key takeaway here, key point for me was that it's untouched by the Empire. That's critical because, as we know, Vader and the Emperor are looking for Darth Maul during this time frame. And so for him to be able to operate and rise up to power, he's going to have to start somewhere where he's really low key, like no one's really looking for him, right? So the Empire not having a presence wherever this planet it's at, I think it's Janix or whatever it's called, makes absolute sense. And it gives him that bandwidth and the freedom to kind of start doing things without garnering a lot of attention from the higher ups. Now we'll see when that changes once Marek and the 11th brother show up, because it seems like they're going to make a direct phone call to the Grand Inquisitor and or Vader. So we'll see how that goes, but at least we know that he's starting somewhere pretty low key and out of sight, out of reach of the Empire, at least initially on.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call there, because if you place this story in an area where the Empire already has their, a foothold of the planet or the system or whatever, then they have to be a part of the story. And I
Right.
think what needs to happen is Maul needs to build his part of the story first, then have the Empire come as an additional part of the existing story. So I think this particular part of the synopsis, Maul starting out on a planet, on a system that's untouched by the Empire, is the way to go, again, to allow his story to unfold, and then have the Empire come in as, I don't want to say a subplot, but in addition to his existing story. I think that's the best move they could have made, and I'm all for it.
Yeah. And we'll get into the other part that stands out, of course, is this Jedi Padawan who's disillusioned, and we'll talk more about that because I've got some theories as to how that's going to go based on what I was seeing in the trailer, and I could be wrong, but that's half the fun of doing all this stuff. So okay, so interesting here. We got 10 episodes officially released. So going into this, out of Celebration, we didn't know how many episodes. I think everybody was talking about somewhere between 8. I wasn't thinking we were going to get a full season. Certainly not to the likes of the Bad Batch. It just felt like that trend was coming down. We were getting less and less. So I think this makes sense that they would land on 10 episodes. I don't have a problem with that. The other thing we have to keep in mind too is a lot of US television is starting to move towards where Europe has been for a number of years, where they truly are seasons. You know what I mean? Like there's a fall season, it's like 8 episodes. And then there's a winter season, and that's 8 episodes. And so by the end of it all, you get somewhere in that 24 to 32 episode range. But they have always done seasons truly as seasons. And in the US here, our seasons literally start in the fall and they'll go all the way until, April or May. So you get like 2 basically seasons instead of 1. So I think it makes sense that they're going. I'm not saying they're going that direction where they're trying to do that purposely for that reason. I think it's more about streaming and where they're trying to go with streaming. A lot of places, a lot of different streaming companies are starting to decrease their footprint. That's fine with me. I don't have a problem with it. I don't want to hear anybody complaining about, filler episodes. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about filler episodes. I don't think we're going to have any of those there. But the more interesting piece of this for me, and I've got 2 takes on this, is the day that they're coming out. So this show is going to kick off on Monday, April 6th. I can't think of the last time we had a Monday release for a Star Wars anything. But here we are, a Monday release. And on top of that, we're getting 2 episodes a night. So 2 episodes on Monday. No hints as to how long these episodes are. My guess it's going to be somewhere in that 30, maybe 40-minute range. Typically what we've seen so far with some of the other like Bad Batch and those. I don't know that we'll get anything under this, 28 minutes or something like that. So really you're talking about maybe an hour and a half at most for those 2 episodes. So one, the Monday night thing is kind of weird. You and I were talking before we came onto the air earlier today that maybe it's because Disney has something else coming out on Monday, and so they want to make sure that they're not in conflict with that. Another reason is that if they do 2 episodes on Monday nights, it allows them to line up the last 2 episodes to land on May 4th, which has been a tradition. We've had a lot of Star Wars animation. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff, of course, that happens on May 4th because it is the holy day. And the problem that I have is the same problem that we had with some of the other shows, where as content creators, we now have to do 2 shows and break them down, right? And it's just it's a lot more work. I mean, to do all that. So, I mean, poor us. We'll figure it all out. But
we enjoy it.
Yeah. But what do you think? I mean, how are you feeling about the Monday night release, and especially like the 2 episodes per night? Do you think that's going to detract from the flow of it? Do you think it's going to come too fast, not fast enough? What do you think there?
So I've learned. First, let me touch on a subject you brought up about U.S. television. If you've seen a lot of these streaming series that have a season, the series episode number for those types of shows, that come out on streaming platforms have been between 8 and 12. It's not like your network television where you can have 18 to 22 to 24 episodes a season. So I think this 10 episode season, I think, falls in line with that, which I'm happy for, because like you said previously, I thought this was going to be like a limit. The way they were talking about it at Celebration, that this was going to be like a limited run show, like maybe 5 to 6 episodes.
Oh,
To
like
see
really
now that,
limited. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
to see now that we're going to get a full streaming season of 10 episodes, I'm excited for that. The second part of what you were saying, I didn't think about that previously, that, yeah, if they do release it on Monday, the finales, the 2 episodes that will be the finale of the series, will air on, May the 4th.
Right.
So that makes sense there. Now, why they want to show 2 episodes a week, the only thing I could think of is that they're trying to make sure that this ends so that they have ample time to prepare for what's coming afterwards.
Afterwards.
Ahsoka season 2, maybe, I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
something like that. That's the only thing I could think of at this point. I do know we've seen with the like Andor, I believe they had what, 3 episodes a week, or 2 episodes a week with
Yeah, that was
Andor.
tough. That was tough.
Yeah, I know with Ahsoka, they debuted 2 episodes when they started the series, and then they just did 1 episode a week from that point on. So it's not uncommon for them to do that,
Hmm.
but to do it consecutive weeks like this, and then we end on May 4th, is there it is, because they're trying to make sure there's ample time between the end of this series and whatever comes up next on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Or here's another thing, I just thought of this. Maybe they want to give a buffer between the end of this series and the debut of Mandalorian and Grogu, which is just a couple of weeks after this series ends.
That's true. Yeah.
It could be something like that. That's the only thing I could think of. But as far as debuting on a Monday, I think you probably hit the nail on the head. We'll probably never get confirmation, though, that they want this to end on May the 4th.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they might, after the series is over, of course, they'll probably fill us in some, article on Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or something, but it's not important. It is what it is. It's 2 episodes on Monday nights, and we've got a lot of Star Wars. And so I'm not being, ungrateful by any means. I'm happy that we're getting 10 episodes, and it's Darth Maul, and it fits everything we just talked about. Now, the official, I guess, take on the 10 episodes from Star Wars, what they say is, with 10 episodes arriving over 5 weeks, Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord will take a serialized approach to Star Wars storytelling. This show is highly serialized, very connected all the way through. And that's from executive producer and supervising director Brad Rouse. So when he says that it's connected all the way through, I always take that as, okay, we're not going to have a lot of filler episodes. Like, everything is going to be purposeful. I know even with the Bad Batch, like, we would argue all the time, honestly, offline, of course, never with our followers, because they all get it. But a lot of times that filler stuff that they quote filler actually has significance and meaning in future episodes, right? It's part of the character growth, part of the character development. I think 10 episodes is probably going to be enough to do all of that with the main characters, both Devon and Maul, of course, and still leave us with something to go into like a season 2. But more on that later. But so I think we're good. I think it's going to be lean. I think there's going to be, they've talked about it in the article, that it's going to be action packed and fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
So all signs are pointing that this is going to be a really exciting series. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go.
No, I was going to say that's exactly what Filoni said in Japan about this series, that it's going to be action packed. There's not going to be any slowdowns in this series, and it's going to be a completely, he said it's an action series, more or less. It's going to be an action series. We're not going to have a lot of, negotiating, talking and all that. It's going to be essentially Maul doing his thing, trying to assert his dominance in the underworld. And here's another thing I just want to say. This is, I did not hear any fan saying, "Hey, this is a story I need." You know what I mean?
Right,
now that we have this is definitely a story we need. So I'm glad that Filoni and his team came up with this idea to bring us this story of Maul trying to gain his footing in the underworld. Again, it's something we didn't know we needed, but now we need it and we want it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there were a lot of people when Solo Star Wars story came out, right, seeing Maul in that, and I don't know how many casual fans saw that and went, "Oh, wait, what's he doing? He was dead. He died in episode 1." I mean, a lot of them didn't have the benefit of watching the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels. So, it is interesting to see how people are going to connect those dots, and if this show is really trying to do that for folks. It feels like it's a little too much to take on. I feel like they're just going to tell the story and people can kind of figure it out later. But if we get into like a season 2 or season 3, I think they do need to kind of tie that together in some way, right? Start formulating that a little bit closer so that we can have that transition from where Maul is and Shadow
Mhm.
Lord to where we get him in Han Solo. And then the story that's the story, in my opinion, beyond that is where does he fall? Like, how does he go from where he was in Solo Star Wars story to where we see him in Rebels, where he's absolutely lost his mind, distraught, wandering, just gibberish at times, madman kind of force follower. I want to see that story as well. So I
Mhm.
say that because Maul is one of those characters. I mean, I have it down here. It says I love a cockroach, and my emojis down there under my name. But he is the galactic cockroach, and he is a character. Like I said when we did the 2026 show, Ahsoka, Maul, and Ventress are all three characters that came out of the Clone Wars. That in that Clone Wars, well, Clone Wars, except Maul, of course, came from Episode 1. But in the Clone Wars, they gave us so much more story for those three characters, and they continue to be characters that honestly follow a lot of similar paths and parallels. But the idea that we're still going to get even more Maul stories yet to come. I mean, we got a prequel comic that's coming out for this series alone as well. So it's never ending, and I'm all here for it. So let's get into the cast real quick. Sam Witwer is coming back as Darth Maul. I mean, he's like just amazing at Darth Maul. I mean, he's done it before. They're bringing him back. If you don't know who Sam Witwer is, go look him up. He's a big nerd guy, plays Dungeons and Dragons, and oh, by the way, he does the voice of Darth Maul and did a couple of other some video game stuff as well. So I love the fact that he's coming back. We've got a actress by the name of Gideon Adlon as Devon Izara. Devon Izara, I think is the name. And so she's the Jedi. She's the Twi'lek Jedi that we saw in the Celebration trailer that everyone was like, holy bananas, this is Darth Talon, right? Which I don't, well, we can talk about that here in a second, because I think there probably, I can see Dave Filoni. He's not, wouldn't be the first time he's done this, but he has gone in the past and dug up old types of things that him and George Lucas were banging around at some point, right? Whether it was Mortis and some of the other stuff. So he's brought a lot of those ideas back. I can see him weaving in some of the Darth Talon stuff in here as well, which would be honestly, I'd be all for. I don't think we're going to get a full Darth Talon. We can talk more about that in a second, but I want your thoughts on this because they did give us a little bit more information on the character of Devon. It says Devon is a young person who's living through challenging times and realizes that the future she once thought she was going to have is no longer possible. And so she has to adapt. This is from Matt Miknovitz. He goes on to say, she's conflicted between right and wrong, but there's a level of innocence too. When you see her in the booth with Sam, it's like you're seeing Maul and Devon, I keep saying Devon, interacting together. This is now Portillo. He's teaching her things alongside Matt and Brad and about the lore of Star Wars and what the character is all about. So you got Sam Witwer, who's, I mean, if you've ever heard him just whack Star Wars theory, it's amazing to hear him to talk, just kind of, expressing his own thoughts and theories on stuff. But he's got her in the sound booth helping her and bringing her along. But I want to go back to that first part because it says that she's a young person living through challenging times. We know that she looks to be like a Jedi, right? She looks like she was a Jedi that was in hiding here and living in a world that's, a future that's no longer possible. So I take that as, I mean, the obvious being she thought her life was going to be as part of the Jedi Order in the Jedi Temple, and Order 66 came around. And so now she's been left stranded here looking for, her way and trying to find out who she's going to be. But I guess your thoughts on the character, are you excited about this? And then how did you feel seeing it not be specifically Darth Talon,
Right.
with her being, pink versus red and maybe even a younger looking Twi'lek than what we saw with Darth Talon?
Well, obviously, what came out of Celebration was, oh, it's Darth Talon, right? But
Right.
we didn't have enough context, right? It was just really flashes of a Twi'lek. And here's the thing, a Twi'lek with Force abilities, but we didn't see her wield a lightsaber.
Hmm.
So it's like when I saw her wield a lightsaber in this trailer, I was like, oh, she's a Jedi or a Padawan. So she has force chops, if you want
Right.
to,
Yeah.
take it that far. So that gave me more ideas of like, okay, what could this character be? Could this be another situation where a Jedi is tempted, and Maul is there trying to, just kind of ease her into the ways of the dark side? Or are they going to work together and she's going to just walk that fine line of, not completely falling to the dark side, but still working with Maul for some reason? I don't know if we're going to go the whole Darth Talon route. Is it possible? Yes, because like you mentioned, Filoni has been known to pull stuff out of conversations he's had with George Lucas, not to mention
Hmm.
aspects of Legends and then bringing them into canon.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it is a possibility. But seeing Devin wield the lightsaber and seeing her use her force abilities in that trailer just made that character a whole lot more robust for me. And I'm excited to see, what she turns out to be.
Yeah. I was going to save this for the trailer breakdown, but since we're on the topic, so one of the theories that came on into my head as I was watching this thing, and I've had some time to reflect on it now, when you see a character like Devin, and we know that she's kind of lost, right? In a lot of ways, she's searching for what her future is going to be because the future she thought she was going to have is no longer possible, and she has to adapt. I think the adaptation part of it is simply trying to live in an environment now where she's continually being hunted by the Empire. Right, they're the fascist authoritarian type government, and their rule is starting to spread through the galaxy like a disease. Right, that's every person though, right? For the most part, right? For the most part, everybody's having to live with that. So she's got a lot of things coming at her at times. Later on, we do see what looks to be possibly a mentor, maybe her master. We'll get into that character in a little bit. But I was thinking it would be interesting to see Maul go and approach her because he does want an apprentice, right? When we get to Star Wars Rebels, he's trying to get Ezra to kind of come over to his side, right? So it's not this is uncommon for him to do. He's done it before, or will do it again. And so, I can see him going to her and approaching her and say, hey, like the Tea Party thing that we're going to talk about here in a little bit from the trailer, trying to woo her over to the dark side. The interesting thing about this is that Maul is being hunted just like her, right? So he can play that line of like, hey, we're in this together. We're all in this together. And you're just like me. I'm being hunted. You're being hunted. I'm force sensitive. You're force sensitive. You don't know your way. I know your way. I can show you the way, et cetera, et cetera. He's going to do that to woo her. I can almost predict that's going to happen. But the other part was if she does have a master, and if that other person is her master or somebody that's, she looks up to or she's running around with, he's got to be removed from the picture, right?
Right.
And I can see Maul actually doing it himself, not ever letting her know. But if he goes and kills that master, now he's basically island her. He's stranded her without any guidance but him at that point. He almost forces her hand into pledging allegiance to him and becoming his her master in a way, or letting him be the teacher. And I think she's going to struggle with that, right? Because she's coming from the light. Of course, she's former Jedi. Maybe she was a Padawan. But I think in that situation, given all the other circumstances and everything else that's going on in the environment, somebody like Maul who's saying, "Look, yeah, maybe I was a bad guy, but we're all in this together now, and we all have the same enemies." I can see her starting to align with all that. And once she takes that first step down the path of the dark side, forever doesn't rule your destiny, right? So I can see where maybe they could lead into that or lean into that as the series goes on, where she's very reluctant at first, but then suddenly starts to come around because she's getting sucked into the dark side and has no one else to turn to at that point.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I mean, and that's typical of what we see in Star Wars stories where, you know, uh, a particular force sensitive, force powerful individual starts to feel that temptation to the dark side, and then either they're able to resist it or they fall. And I think
Mm,
that's going to be the interesting story here, is that how is she going to walk that fine line? Is she going to walk that fine line, or is she going to say, hey, like you mentioned, the empire is hunting you, the empire is hunting me, let's work together so that we can survive. And with that, she may have no choice but to fall to the dark side. That's going to be the story, I believe, that we're going to follow. Obviously, Maul's story is going to be the one that's going to be the most important because his growth, obviously, it's his series. But to see where Devin goes, and like you said, what's going to if that force sensitive individual that we saw in the trailer, if that is her master or her mentor, you know, what's going to happen to that person? Yeah, if Maul's going to take over and be her mentor, he has to be out, or they have to be out of the picture. So
exactly.
how
Yeah.
is that going to happen?
Right. Yeah, and it could be very quick and unceremonious, or it could be something that you never know with Darth Maul in terms of what he's going to do. But whatever he does, he'll make sure that it, of course, plays to his advantage. So, I've got some other theories too already about Darth Maul and where he is by the end of the series, but we'll talk more as we go through. I want to just quickly get through the rest of the cast. So we've got Wagner Mora as Brander Lawson. He looks to be kind of one of the security guards in this. You've got Richard Yoade. I don't know how to say his name. That's Two Boots, right? So he's the droid that we'll see in a little bit. And those two characters are the primary characters of that prequel comic that's coming in March. So Expect we'll see more and talk more about that as we get closer to it. You've got Dennis Haysbert playing Master Iko Diodaki. And so I think that is that character that we saw in there. I think it was an Aline, but maybe not. I'm not sure the species. It actually in one of the images later on in the trailer, it does not look like an Aline, and then in some of them it does. So we'll talk more here in a second on that one. You've got Chris, oh my lord, Dia Montopoulos as Luti Vario, Charlie Bushnell as Riley Lawson, Vanessa Marshall coming back to play. Yep. That's Hera, right? That's where we know her from. Vanessa Marshall is playing Rook Cast, and so that is the I've joked about this, but back in the old 80s RPG, Star Wars RPG, that character Jodo Cast was created for a module back then in the Star Wars role-playing game. And in Legends, that Jodo Cast had a whole family, but Rook Cast is like one of the actual canon characters that have now come out of it. And so we saw her in Rebels, I think, and maybe the Clone Wars, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So this is her coming back. So this is not the first time that we've seen her, but she is a bounty hunter, a Mandalorian bounty hunter that is siding with Darth Maul here. And then you got David C. Collins as someone named Spybot, AJ Lacasio as Marok. We all know him. And then you got Steve Blum, who's going to not only do the voice of Icarus, but he'll do every other voice as well in all these animated series. So look for his name in the credits throughout every episode, because he's going to be there quite a bit. You talked earlier about the I guess the stylistic changes that we're seeing here and just how improved they are. I'm with you. Like I didn't go to Celebration Japan, of course, but we did get the maybe not so legal version download of the trailer. And I remember when we broke that down, it's a Patreon exclusive. If you're a Patreon member, you can go back and watch it. I do remember it standing out, and that was in low quality. Like the resolution was terrible. It was like, shaky cam stuff, but you could tell there was something special about the artistry and the CGI, the CG that was being used, the animation type that were being used. I think one of the other interesting things here is the use of matte paintings. So going back to like the original trilogy and all those wonderful, incredible matte paintings that were used back before we had, special effects the way we do today, they're actually incorporating that. And I want to highlight, there's actually one shot in this trailer where you can definitely tell that that's a matte painting in the back, and they just overlaid the animation. So not only do we have like, an upgraded version of the animation, a more artistic, stylistic type of animation being used here, but then we also have some throwbacks of some very old techniques that really hark to the classic era of Star Wars, the original trilogy, and how movies used to be made, which I'm really excited about too, as kind of an old fogey kind of person. So anything else you want to say about the animation? Anything that stood out to you from that?
No, they spoke a little bit about that at Celebration. They also spoke about like how in the Mandalorian series, they actually utilized a lot of models and green screen to create some of the starship shots. And I think and then they use CGI to kind of touch up some hard areas and stuff, but they all look great. They pointed out some of those scenes, and I couldn't tell the difference. It looks CG to me. Back
Right.
to what they're doing now with Maul and the matte paintings, they actually made a comment about that, and it's like, hey, this is what this is how Disney animators used to create their Disney movies, like
That's
Snow
true.
White
That's very true.
and Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty. They would have these matte paintings and then overlay each animation cell over that matte painting, and that's kind of what they're doing here. Again, but with the paintings, the background is very vibrant. It's when you see like a CGI, a background that's created with CGI, if it's just a standard background, you could tell what it is. It looks real, it looks there, but it's not as vibrant. But when you have the matte painting, then you put your CG animation on top of it, everything looks vibrant. I think
Yeah.
that's what adds to the aesthetic of this show. I mean, you see it in that. I think the one scene that you're referencing, I think I know which one it is, but like when we see Maul for the first time and he ignites his lightsaber, we see the aesthetic of how the animation is going to be with this series, and it just looks amazing. Again, in my opinion, the best thing that Lucasfilm Animation has put out, by far, and this is just the trailer, so it could be improved upon by the time we actually get the series.
Yeah, no, 100%. I can see that happening. So we'll look forward to that and see where it goes. Let's see. One Up versus CPU. Let me go to the chat just real quick. Darth Talon is locked up in the Disney vault. They're not letting her out. Yeah, probably not. I don't think we'll ever see a Darth Talon. If we do, it'll have to be a character that comes out sometime in maybe the Rey era of things, if should the Sith come back. Rezi Kai, thanks for joining, says Boba whacks Jodo in Twin Engines of Destruction. That's the old comic book, if I'm not mistaken, where he does kill him. I just brought this out when I saw that, but this is Tatooine Manhunt. This is the first appearance of Jodo casts. So anybody's interested, but a lot of fun to play. One just dropped out. Can you still hear me? I'm back. Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
No, hold on. We're moving out. Whoa. Can you guys still hear me?
I hear you. Yes.
Okay. No worries. I'm not sure. We're probably having a problem with Restream, so I'll bring us back here in a second. But let's do this. Let's go into. I definitely want to talk about the actual trailer breakdown here. So here we go. We're back. Let's do this. Let's talk about the trailer. Let's get into that and break it down. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll do. We're actually going to try to go like frame by frame on this stuff. So give me 2 seconds here. Let me add this in and get going. Sorry, the whole thing just reset on me. That's why it's there. All right. It's not letting me share. There's me. There's you. Oh, come on, man. This is a StreamYard issue. Sorry, guys. Stand by, please. I'll get this going here in a second. Let's try this one more time. Okay. All right, there we are. All right, but I got to get us back now. Take us out of it. So, all right, we'll just move on here. Oh, there we go. Okay.
There we go. All right.
Let's get into this. Sorry about that. I'll edit all that out in the audio. Hey, this is a live recording, so if you didn't know, this is kind of what happens sometimes. Okay, so we open up on what I'm assuming this is Jarix. This is the name of the new city, that city that we talked about, maybe the planet that we talked about. This is out of the reach of the Empire. It looks very similar to the underworld of Coruscant, Nar Shaddaa, maybe now Hutta. There was also that one. I forget the name of the planet, but there was one in the Bad Batch earlier on in like season 2, I think, where we got another planet like this. So this is typical aesthetic for the underground. Looks kind of very cyberpunkish, if you will. So nothing going on here. And then we get the first kind of point of dialogue here where Darth Maul says, times have changed. And he says that right after the logo here. And we get Maul talking. And now he's doing this like tea thing. So this is a very much like a Japanese tea ceremony that you can see here. A little bit later, they talk about the tea ceremony and how, I don't know if this is kind of just more trivial than anything, but Sam Witwer actually went out to Japan, learned all like the etiquette that goes with Japanese tea parties or in ceremonies and brought it back into it. So I'm curious as to how much like mocap they used for him, because it does feel like this is probably him doing it as well as everything else. But either way, this is again bringing in more traditions and more aesthetics from like the Japanese culture and feudal Japan culture. So I think it certainly plays well within Star Wars and what we've come to expect there. And this is an interesting shot here. You've got these guys here, which I think based on the uniforms, they look like they're security guards or maybe the local police, local authorities of some sort. But they seem to be scaling down. They're almost kind of like walking down from like almost rappelling backwards down the side of a building here. Look like they're about to infiltrate something or someone. We don't ever come back to this scene that I can tell, at least in the trailer, but interesting that we're getting this kind of shot of them. Maybe this is just to kind of set them up and establish them as being the good guys, right? They're going to bust something that's going on in this underground city or whatever. But all right, let's keep going here. All right, this is okay. So this first shot here, we're going to get this shot a little bit later as well, a different angle from it. You can kind of see there's an Ithorian on the right-hand side. It's also got his green umbrella. We'll see that character in a little bit, but I guess the key takeaway here, the lead, is that we've got these TK troopers, stormtroopers coming out of what looks to be a transport, and these guys look to be just like civilians. In fact, you got another gunship on the left-hand side there. It looks like it's coming down as well. So it looks like they're still using like the old... not old, because it's not that far after the Clone Wars, but they're still using the Clone War gunships and dropships to around them.
The one thing I noticed too is that these are Stormtroopers 1.0. You know, the helmets are a little bit different. They mimic more of the clone troopers, but they are Stormtroopers, and I thought that was a nice touch.
Oh, you got 2 of them actually. Yeah, there's another one on the right hand side. They're coming down. So you've got basically 3 transports that are landing here on this planet. Now this could be the Empire finally making its way to Jarix, or I think it's Jarix. So maybe this is a little bit later on. Typically with the teaser trailers, they're showing us footage from like the first maybe 3, 4 at most episodes. We don't really see anything that's going to come later on. Every once in a while, they'll surprise us and sneak something in, but by and large, what we're going to see here is coming out of the first 3, 4 episodes. So, this just looks to be kind of like the scene of Jerick's. You got a speeder that's kind of run down on cinder blocks almost on the right hand side over here. And then we've got one other gunship that's kind of flying over the top there. So more of just kind of painting the scene and giving us the atmosphere of what this city looks like. And then we roll into this scene. So this is an interesting scene because we've got, that looks like what are they called? A Gran?
Yeah.
Oh, his eyes aren't really as sticking out as much. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's just a really large Gran or overweight or something. But there's a Gran there. You've got some Trandoshans in the back there. And this looks to be like a deal. Like I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe you got this person on the left-hand side, this alien on the left-hand side. He looks like half cybernetic and half alien. Maybe part of the remnants of the droid army, or the not the droid army, but the what do you call it?
Techno Union.
Techno Union, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks to me like a deal gone bad, and
right.
I agree with you that it could be the Techno Union only because they have the security guard droids behind them, which is could be a holdover from the Clone Wars. So yeah, I think that exactly is what's going on here. It's a deal gone bad in the underworld again, where Maul is trying to assert his dominance, essentially an environment that he wants to control.
Right. You've got some protocol droids running for cover there, and I didn't know what this was down here on the bottom. I was like, "What is that thing with the blue light glowing over it?" And you pointed out in this shot here, you can see it right there. It's actually the head of a protocol droid,
right?
So, yeah.
And I bet you anything that what's in the memory of that protocol droid is what's valuable, and that's what they're trying to deal. And the only reason why I said that is because of Rise of Skywalker and the whole 3PO has all the information in his head and they had to reset and all that stuff. I think that's what could be going on here, is that protocol droid does have something valuable in its memory, and that's what the deal is for, but then it goes sour.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I want to point this out to you. Like when I pause it here, if you could, it probably doesn't come out very well on the live stream, but man, you can really see the artistic take on the blaster bolts. They're kind of fuzzy, rough, almost like they were done with like a brush stroke, if you will. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very, it reminds me of the 70s and early 80s cartoon movies like Wizard and Heavy Metal, where
right.
their lasers were kind of, I don't want to say dirty, but they weren't clean lasers like we see in Clone Wars. They were like machined looking, like just brush strokes, and that's what it looks like. And we'll see it later with other quote unquote lighting effects. How they're not crisp. They actually have a dirty aspect to them,
right.
And it gives it that aesthetic that makes it look real cool.
Yeah. So that's exciting there. Okay, so we got some battling going on there. Again, that deal's gone bad. We get back to Maul here. He's pouring some tea. It's very cool. You can kind of see his knees there, the metal knees that he's got, because he's got those, metal legs. Off to the right, we see a lightsaber. That could be Devon's lightsaber, or maybe it's a lightsaber that he gives to her as, a token of, trust and appreciation. We'll have to find out. I mean, I haven't really looked at the lights. Later on, I think she ignites one, and so we can take a look at that and see if that's exactly the same one or not. But, he's doing everything he can to pull her over. He says, "I will show you the galaxy for what it truly is." So this is more of his propaganda to join him. He kind of pans over and almost centers on that lightsaber before we cut. The Pikes are back.
The Pikes, yep.
Yep. So, I mean, they've shown up in just about everything now. They continue to be kind of like them and Black Sun are the primary syndicates, at least at this time. So not uncommon that we wouldn't see them here. I'm not sure what's going on here. They look to be kind of in a corridor, or maybe they're at the, a ship that's they just dropped them off or something, but they're definitely taking aim at someone. They've cut this though to look like it's stormtroopers coming in, and Disney does this all the time. And we've talked about this on the show so many times. They do like to kind of pull a fast one on you and splice things together to make you think that they're connected. And then when we watch the show, they're absolutely not connected.
Right.
I don't know that they're shooting stormtroopers, but that's what comes out of this door that gets blasted open. And this is a really good shot of that helmet there. So they're definitely in that TK phase, where they're not early TK phase versus the clone troopers, and not exactly where we see them by the time we get to A New Hope or even Star Wars Rebels. So you can see them taking fire. So again, maybe this is the
Yeah,
Pikes. Maybe it's not.
To point up to that, topic we were talking about previously, how the laser bolts look like brushstrokes. It reminds me of a lot of watching the blasters in A New Hope, because they were essentially pop guns, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
they would pop,
Right.
and they would have that explosion at the tip of the gun, and then they would add the laser effect afterwards. That's what it looks like here. See, you see right there, you had it perfect.
Right
Boom,
there.
you had the pop, and then the laser emit from that. I think that's a cool little thing to put in there.
Yeah.
Little bit of homage to classic original trilogy Star Wars.
All right. In this shot here, this is Devin, and I think her master friend, definitely force sensitive. He comes back a little bit later. I got to get this guy's name down because I haven't really put it committed to memory. So Master Iko Diodaki. That's a mouthful. Iko Diodaki. So I think that's him. He's talking to her here. We'll see him a little bit later as well, or see them a little bit later. But this is where I think that character says, see things from this is Darth Maul saying, I will show you the galaxy for what it truly is, see things from a new perspective. And then this is where Devin says, is this what our future holds? So talking to her. And so I assume this is her reflecting on, the fact that they're just always on the run. Like that is their life now, right? It's just to survive. And as they're doing exactly like I said, everybody else is in the galaxy right now is just trying to survive, keep their heads low, not draw a lot of attention to them, because the Empire is kind of ruling again with that iron fist. So she's talking to this character. I still don't think that's an Alina. I had it in the show notes, but I think I've changed my mind on that one. But she definitely looks troubled by the future and the fact that she has to keep running. Later on, I guess in this next shot here, we see her running. Let me see if I can get over to it real quick here. So that's her there. I'm trying to look at that lightsaber now that we mentioned it.
And see how the lightsaber, it's the glow effect is not clean. It's very choppy. Like, again, the analogy you used of being like a paintbrush or a brush stroke, it's exactly what that is. You could see there, it's very choppy, and I really like that aesthetic that they showed here.
Yeah.
And again, at Celebration, we did not see this character wield a lightsaber.
Right.
So this was a surprise.
Yeah, you can see her there. You've got one of the gunships, dropships coming over. They've got some stormtroopers hanging out there, ready to take fire upon them. And she does get I think they fire at her, if I'm not mistaken. She gets a chance to deflect 2 bolts while these 2 gentlemen walk away. So this is the mustache guy, and what I think is a younger character. So I don't really want to try to, I don't know. I haven't tried to put names to this, but I mean, this is hot off the presses, like we said earlier. So let's see. What was the character's name? Brander, maybe? I'm not sure if that's him or Brander Lawson. Maybe that's the guy with the mustache. I don't know yet. But either way, we're going to see these 2 characters here in a little bit. They seem to be characters that are helping her and after Darth Maul at the same time. That was what I got from the trailer, but I'm certainly open to changing that point of view if things change a little bit different here. But nonetheless, she does deflect a couple bolts. She draws cover for them so that they can run away from there. Look at that. I mean, look at the art.
Yes.
Just, you can see it here. I mean, this looks like a painting of sorts.
Exactly. And this, I didn't see this exact shot at Celebration, but I saw this exterior from another angle, a different shot. And it looked great, but it wasn't as clean as this. This looks even better than what we saw at Celebration. And again, this animation is just beautiful. I have fallen in love with this style that they're coming up with for this show. So I'm excited to see what else they can do.
In that last series, the last episode or last season of The Bad Batch, we were starting to get some of that. Like if you really zoomed in, you could see the texture on a lot of it. It didn't look very clean like we got from Clone Wars. It looked like there was, more of an artistic effect to it. And this is really, it's ratcheted up quite a few notches here. And plus the color palette they're using, it just really sets everything off. And that color palette is very synonymous with the underworld. And so I'm digging this all. This guy that we're seeing though, who's kind of centered here, this looks to be that same mustache guy that we saw just a minute ago. So he seems to be walking away from that. I don't know what the shot is, but it certainly catches your eye, and I think that's why they threw it in here. We go back to Maul's tea party, and he says, "I invite you to look more closely." And so we pan right, and we get to see that lightsaber there. That did look like the lightsaber. We'll see if there's another shot of it. It kind of looked just the way it kind of tapers off at the end. It looks similar to the one that she was holding. So maybe this was hers, and she put it down as part of the ceremony, right? He had her disarm herself, and she put it down. Later on, she gets it, or maybe this is again something that he offers to her. But it is a Jedi lightsaber because we saw the blade. Although I say that, but there looks like some red in there.
Yeah, that could be a red crystal.
Interesting.
That's a lightsaber design that I haven't seen. Where I mean, we've seen like lightsabers. I know in comics where the whole crystal is exposed, you see it, and it's still a functioning lightsaber. But here, it's kind of behind that like grid, and you see the glowing ever so slightly. So I think that's a good touch there.
Yep. Okay. We go to this scene here. And we get a voiceover saying, "What are we dealing with?" We can see the Maul poster in the background. I haven't had a chance to translate the Aurebesh. I'm sure it says, wanted for crimes against the Empire or whatever it is. But there are two. You can see the two stormtroopers there, and then you've got the droid that's kind of hovering there as well. We get to see them. They got some of these types of droids were edited back into the original trilogy by the time that came out. So, or the special editions and thereon. We knew Maul again is being hunted down by the Empire. Makes sense that they would throw up some wanted signs. Then we get a response of good question. The answer to what are we dealing with here? There's the mustache guy again. He's rubbing. That's got to be him. That's got to be Darren. What's his name? Warren.
Riley
Wagner.
Lawson.
Brander. Jesus. I'll get this down. This happens every show. Like I'm like terrible with the names until I get them down, of course. But Brander. And
Brander
that is
Lawson.
Two Boots. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brander Lawson. And that looks like Two Boots back off to the left there. So that's the droid that we can expect to see a little bit more of in the series. So, they definitely seem to be after Maul as well. Whether they're local security, maybe they're bounty hunters as well and trying to just cash in on the bounty. But at some point, it does look like they do get paired up with Devin, and Maul gets paired up with Devin. So there's a part of me that wants to think that at some point, maybe they do all kind of help each other. And Maul is really just kind of playing everybody. But, if they're all running from the Empire, it makes sense that they would kind of help each other out or take advantage of that, especially if they were in their time of need. You got a quick shot here of a shuttle screaming across the scene there. Again, this looks like right out of Blade Runner or something.
That reminds me of the starship of the Knights of Ren from
the
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, because the trail of smoke.
Yeah. What is it? Is it the Iron Vulture? I forget the name. Something.
Yeah, I forget the name. Yeah.
Is the name of that, but I think it had a verb in there somewhere, adverb. Adjective. Wow. Okay. English is hard. All right. So from there, let's see. We go into this shot. This is a really cool shot because we've got, again, these look like more security forces. Some of those same ones that we saw. That could be Two Boots. Now he may have a visor on top right there coming over his eyes. But we get to see just a slight foot. Right. So I think that's them. You can see the security people there. Maybe it's not Two Boots. I'm not really sure. This is where it gets confused. Oh, wait. No, I get it. That looks to be the security people there. You've got some people with some riot shields there. You can barely see them in the cloud and the dust off or the smoke off to the right here. You've got Maul's foot coming down, but in the back, that looks like what's her name? Miss Cass back there. Right. And that looks like there's probably some Knight brothers back there as well. So I'm assuming that they've got Maul's crew pinned down or at gunpoint or blaster point here. And this is where Maul comes in, and you can see him step in right behind it all and turns into Billy Badass. We get more on that. So coming April 6th, and then we get the continuation shot here. So there's Maul. He ignites his lightsaber. Okay, so here's a better shot. So that definitely is a Knight brother back there. That is definitely Rook Cast that I can see. Maybe another Mandalorian.
Another Mandalorian, yeah.
Yeah, that was part of it. Those could be credits, maybe. Like that palette right there, maybe. I don't know. But there's somebody laying
it looks
there.
like a droid, like a protocol droid of some kind.
Yeah, laying there dead.
Yeah.
Or unplugged. I don't know. Whatever you call droids. But this poor guy takes a couple shots. Maul, of course, deflects it. This is a really neat shot because then he ignites his lightsaber there.
And Yeah, check out the lightsaber.
Yeah, I just saw that.
That's his lightsaber in the tea party scene,
But the
or
one in the
part of
Tea
it
Party scene
anyway.
wasn't long. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
maybe he's modified it where he can just
Mhm.
kind of connect it and become two separate ones. Very cool. Yep. No, that's got to be it. And that would explain the red kyber crystal that we saw.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we got to the bottom of that one. Man, look at this. Let's look at the lines,
Yeah,
the tracer lines on the lightsaber.
yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it is completely beautiful. I was taken aback by seeing this again. I knew the animation was going to be great and it was going to be different from what we've seen before. But after seeing this trailer, it still blew my mind away, and I'm very, very excited.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, One Up says they have noise texture. That's a good way of putting it. It says so Vader versus Maul should be a thing.
See,
Maybe. We'll see.
yeah, that that
Hold that
was the
thought.
yeah, that was the thing, and I'm like, would it be cool? Yes. Is it something that we need? I don't know. You know,
I'd say I think we need it for this series, but I'd say save it. I don't know if it's something I'd want to do in season 1. But
right,
that's just me.
right, exactly. No, I would agree with that. Now, this whole scene where he's twirling his saber, I mean, look
Yeah.
at the artwork behind him with the ship. I mean, it looks real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
right.
could
Yeah.
stick a human being there, like a live person, and it would still blend seamlessly. I just love this aesthetic. I love it all. It looks so good.
Yeah, man. This is good stuff. I know we're spending a lot of time on the animation, but this is something we've never I mean, this is new.
Yeah,
Like we have never had anything like this before.
definitely,
So
definitely.
certainly we're talking about looking at. So of course he's parrying a number of these bolts, sending them right back at these guys with the riot shields, and then he jumps in. And I'm gonna guess that guy dies.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for him.
No. So that's my theory. He dies. All right. So Maul kills that person. Let me go back to my notes here. Where are we on this one? We had good question. I offer you. Yep. This is where he says, and I offer you an opportunity. That's Maul talking to Devin there. And this is a really cool shot because we can see her in the shadow of Maul. So
Mhm.
very symbolic there. Of course, she's draped in red. So you got black and red, that motif going on with Darth Maul. You can see a little redness in her eyes kind of thing, maybe alluding to the fact that she's trying to turn or may turn. And then we get this shot, which I think they do a good job of Darth, this character, the model for this one. This one looks more like what's his face? The guy that played Darth Maul. We were just talking
Ray Park.
It looks like Ray Park here
Yeah.
to me than we have in some of the other Darth Maul kind of look like. I mean, of course, he looked the same in Solo, but for animation wise, I think they did a really good job of nailing what that look of Ray Park is. Man, he does look like a devil, huh?
Yeah, he looks menacing there.
Yeah.
He looks really menacing.
So we got a shot of a ship coming into some orbit. I don't think that's Janix. Just I don't see why it would be when it's green like that. So this could be just a number of things, really. But cool shot there. And this was the matte painting.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
It's
amazing.
gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. Yes, definitely.
And it just like it blends well with the animation itself, right? You know what I mean? Like it's a matte painting. It's not moving, but then they overlay that with the CG that's got that artistic style. It all just
Mhm.
kind of blends together. So I'm loving it, man. But yeah, I assume this is one of the earlier model of Star Destroyers that's just looming over Janix as the Empire is starting to kind of figuring out what's going on here, or just making the rounds to scare people and entice people to do what they want.
Very
Let's
Rogue.
see.
That shot's very Rogue One.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it looks like Jeddah. The same shot we got
exactly
with Jeddah.
right. Mhm. Now here, I will say here, when I first saw this, I actually mouthed these when I saw I mouthed these words when I saw it. I was like, "Is that Sabine?" Because I did not know Rook Cast was part of this, so I was like, "Is
Gotcha.
that Sabine?"
Yeah.
And what the heck?
Yep. Now this is Maul saying, "We have all been made to suffer." So he's turning back. He's looking at her as he says that. Then we cut over to this ATST, again, another earlier model, similar to what we got in. It's a cross between what we see in Rebels and what we saw in the Clone Wars. So I love the
Right.
fact that they're showing us kind of that evolution.
Evolution,
of
exactly.
things.
And here, this practically looks real. I mean,
Yeah.
it's again,
Looks like
animation's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like a model of some sort, like an actual
Mhm.
toy model that they built and used. So here's that shot I was mentioning earlier. There's that person with that green umbrella and the Athorian right in front of him. So this is now a reverse shot of that. So when we saw them, those stormtroopers were coming out of the dropship, but they seem to be looking up. So this may be the first shot, right? The establishing shot of them looking up and seeing the dropships come over, and then we cut over to them actually landing and the stormtroopers come out. So that's my guess. That guy's helmet there, it looks very similar to like a Darth Maul or Darth Vader helmet too.
Yeah.
In the front. I don't know, some of the details are probably lost on the stream, but I wonder if these are like early concepts.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think this is the same shot because I think that the drop shit's coming here, but they, they cut over now to this ATST taking fire on something. So kind of cool. We get to see that. And we get some voiceovers again. So we see after Maul says, we've all been made to suffer. He says, we survive, but do not live. And so you can see her, she's kind of struggling. This is, I don't know, maybe she's locked up. I assume maybe Maul is the one that came and freed her. And that's where we get that shot of him kind of standing over in the shadow or, with that sort of thing. So maybe she's locked up by the Empire. Maybe they did catch up with her and he bails her out. And so that, now she owes him a favor. She feels obligated to kind of help him out. He could be doing a lot of this stuff and deceiving her. And, he's all about lies and deception. So he could be behind the whole thing. But he says, we all are made to suffer. We survive. We get this shot here of that one guy. What was his name already?
The master, his name,
Tiki Ioki.
Master Iko Diodaki.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that's going to be, yeah. And I thought this was Devin when I first saw the trailer. I didn't stop it frame by frame, but yeah, definitely we see that it's the master there, having some problems with a gunship.
Yeah. His lightsaber is cool too, because in one of the shots you see it and it's like a cane. Mm-hmm. And then later on, it turns out to be kind of a lightsaber on top there.
Yeah, it's like that one Jedi Master from the Clone Wars that helped worked with Ahsoka. I don't remember his name, but yeah, he had that cane lightsaber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot his name too already, but I've always liked that. This is what I was hoping that we'd get with like Rey, mm-hmm. with her staff, that she would eventually find a way to keep a staff, but have a lightsaber that came out of it. But we'll never know. Okay, so we see him blocking those blaster bolts, right? Then we cut over to Devin jumping on what looks to be a gunship. Like you can see there's a stormtrooper in there. It looks kind of like a, almost like a AT-AT driver pilot, but definitely seems to be flying. Either that's the front of the gunship, which I haven't really looked too closely on, or it's another ship. But nonetheless, she breaks open the hatch. Then she pulls the hatch off and then uses the force right here. You can see her. She uses the force to kind of push him out of that vehicle. And then she commandeers this vehicle because later on we're going to see her actually in it. So I don't know if this is them taking over one of those ships that's following them or what it is, but she definitely takes it over. Here's a good shot of him. You can see him standing there. He's meditating. It's raining. Look at the effects on that too with the rain. It just looks hand drawn.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So you can kind of see him. He's meditating. Maybe he knows his time has come, right? So a lot of these Jedi will sit down and think about their fate because it's near. But there's his lightsaber as a staff or a walking stick or a cane or whatever. We get a quick shot of two, I don't know, speeders racing, land speeders, air speeders. I can't tell who that is. If that's like the Empire in front of them, it might be like an Imperial transport ship or something.
Yeah, like a transport. It has that like platform in the back that can drop, and so I can see that. That's a good look at it right there.
Yeah,
I can see where it could be like Imperial transport.
So they're being chased. So this is really cool. I mean, you could see him. He's definitely force sensitive. He uses the force here as that ship, that speeder coming at him to kind of make it go up and around him. So almost very similar to 11. It's thanks. If you're a fan of that show, you know what I'm talking about. Does he have his lightsaber out? No, he's just got the stick out. So yeah, pretty cool. Powerful.
Yeah, he's definitely powerful. Yeah, and I'm curious to hear his backstory because I wasn't he was a character that we didn't see in Japan as well.
Oh, okay. Whoa. Jeez, man. Now we're giving everything away here. I'm sure everybody's already seen this. This is, to me, I think this looks like they've got this droid, I assume, on the table. And this might be the first time they've actually seen Darth Maul, right? They might have been, they may have been chasing this enigmatic figure of Darth Maul, someone that's been rumored to exist. And this is the first time that someone actually had footage. So I assume they've taken this droid's, ocular whatever, and they've tapped into the brain, and they've been able to kind of get this hollow to come out, because he's walked up to it almost like, I finally see you, or like in looking into his eyes for the first time that he's been after. Right? This could be his white whale kind of thing. But we'll see. And that is, of course, the other guy that I can't remember. We've got a number of Knight brothers here. You got Maul, of course, leading the front, but you can see there's two more right there in the back, which is awesome. So he's gone back to Dathomir, and it says recruited some folks, or they found him. I'm not really sure, but I love the fact that he's bringing in some of his brethren here to help him out.
Yeah. Again, this was something that we didn't see in Japan, so this was a surprise watching this trailer.
Yeah. And you got a Zabrak here. Oh, this is a really cool shot too, where he's taking out these droids and just cutting. I mean, he's like, they're all just cut to pieces. Look at that.
Yep. I like the end where he just impales them at the end. He just takes them out.
Two kneecaps right there.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other kneecaps. Impales one. And that dude's already down. I mean, he can't even do anything. He's got no legs, or no bottom part of his legs, and still rams it right through his mouth almost. That's cool. And then you've got the Zabrak here on a heavy repeater blaster of some sort.
Yeah, this is a cool shot. I really like that.
Yeah, I can't tell who this is though. I can't tell who that is right there. If that's just
isn't that Maul with his knees?
Oh, it is. Yeah, you're right. I think it's his.
And then you see legs. The tip of his lightsaber right there at the top of the frame.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
So yeah.
See, again, when I saw the trailer for the first time, I was like, "Is that Sabine?"
Yeah. Not knowing Sabine's mom, maybe. Earlier.
Yeah, not knowing that cast was going to be in this series.
Yeah. But yeah, Mandalorian's doing Mando things with flamethrowers, and is that a droid that she hits? It looks like it's a droid. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a droid. You see the legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this might be that part of that same confrontation that we saw earlier, where Maul's up here, I'm assuming, and those are the guys there, and they had him kind of pinned at gun.
Yeah, and then Maul comes in and goes crazy,
saves him. All right, here's where it got kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So we get the 11th brother, who first appeared in Tales of the Empire? Jedi, yeah, Jedi, because it was the Ahsoka.
It was the Ahsoka story. Yep.
So that's cool. We got to see him come back. We know he's going to live in the series, and that's Merrick. So I assume he's going to live as well, because we'll see him later on when we get to the Ahsoka series itself. But I have a question for you. Like, when Merrick came out, we talked a lot about on the show about whether or not he was even ever really alive. Was he a Inquisitor at some point? Was he brought back to life? And I guess the question I have is, do you think this is going to be him as an actual being, and we'll see him die, and then, Morgan Elsbeth takes him and resurrects him and creates this kind of never dying type Inquisitor? Or I don't know. What do you think?
That's a good question. I kind of am not sure, especially since we've seen the Knight brothers here. We've seen additional Knight brothers here. Maul obviously does go back to Dathomir. Does that mean there's a connection with, like you said, Morgan Elsbeth to come and actually bring Merrick back to life, like off screen before this? Or is that connection going to come near the end of the series and bring him back to life, and then we see him in Ahsoka?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I'd like to see Merrick already be like undead. Like, I'd love to see Maul kill him, and then he pops back up, and Maul's like, wow, there's somebody who tends to live longer than me, or has more lives than I do.
The other cockroach of the galaxy.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they get into that. I love the fact that they're bringing that character back, though, too. That's great. Both characters, quite honestly. This is an interesting shot. I mean, I know there's not a lot here, but when you think about the way samurai would fight, and you think about that final battle between Kenobi and Darth Maul, and just the posturing and the strategy that went into their poses and their
Mhm.
stances. When you look at this scene, it looks like they're doing something very similar. Now it's just Marok and you Darth Maul, of course, but I love the fact that they are kind of going into different types of stances and types of you know battle stances, I guess, if you will, fighting
Yeah,
styles.
yeah, posturing.
Yeah,
And
very
this
cool.
is yeah, this is real cool. Only because the evolution of lightsaber fighting in Lucasfilm animation has really come a long way. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
I'm sure you remember watching, the first, actually Clone Wars in its entirety. The moves were very choppy. It was like slash hit stop, slash hit stop. And here we see it flow like if it was a live action duel.
Yeah.
I really, really like how that has evolved, because that was one of my criticisms from an animation perspective on the Clone Wars, is that the lightsaber dueling was very choppy. And
Mm.
I mean, it's animation; it's the best they could do at the time. But now they've been able to evolve, and now the duels look amazing.
Yeah, I think it got better when we got to Rebels, but it still
Mhm,
had. I think they were still trying to stick with that, that same kind of look. And Rebels was really going more for the Ralph McQuarrie kind of look
mhm,
with everything, right? The aesthetics was more Ralph McQuarrie brought to life.
right.
This one, though, is more in line with what we got from season 7 of the Clone Wars, where they brought in Ray Park and did mocap for the fight,
Mhm,
because that was just like I mean, that really was an elevation in terms of the cinematography or the choreography of the fighting
right.
and the fluidness of the fighting. I mean, you could tell that was Ray Park doing all those moves. And I forget the actress's name that they brought in. She's done a lot of stuff for Star
Mhm,
Wars as well, but they brought her into to mocap the Ahsoka fight itself. But man, that really made. I mean, that fight was great just as it stands. But the fact that they brought that type of technology in to do that for that particular episode was outstanding. And I can see seems to be kind of the next step of that, right? An evolution or almost a continuation. It'll be interesting to find out if they actually went that far with it, because I know that's very expensive to do, and typically they'll allow just the animators to animate it. But
mhm.
to your point, it's very fluid, and so I would assume that they did kind of go and do a lot of mocap with this. And whether that was Ray Park or maybe even Sam Witwer, I don't know. That'd be good to find out.
Yeah, either did they, have, people in suits to do mocap, or were they able to take those data points from previous motion captured
Oh yeah,
duels and then
yeah,
put them together to make the duel look more fluid? I'm curious to hear that. I'm sure at next celebration we'll have a panel for this, and we'll probably have some answers to some of those questions anyway. But yes, that's the one thing that I enjoyed. Not one of the things that I enjoyed of this trailer is seeing these duels and seeing how fluid they were, and how far we've come from the duels from the early days of the Clone Wars series. It, like I said, fluid. It looks authentic versus slash chop pause slash chop pause
yeah.
that we used to get from the old style of animation.
Okay, Chris. So, $1 million question: where do you stand on the helicopter lightsabers? Yay or nay?
So when I first saw it in Rebels, I was like, okay, that's a gimmick to sell toys,
Right.
which this is Star Wars, and it wouldn't be the first time they introduced something to merchandise, to make merchandise out of it to make money. However, moving since then, and then even from what we saw in Rebels, and then going into Kenobi,
Mhm.
it serves its purpose, and I think it's actually vital now when we talk about Inquisitors that they have a lightsaber like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that makes that adds to the character, regardless of who the Inquisitor is. That type style of lightsaber kind of adds to the character, in my opinion. So now I'm all for it. Like I said before, I thought it was just a gimmick, but now I see that yes, it does serve a purpose, and it does indicate that hey, yeah, these individuals are out to really try to capture and destroy what's left of a dying order. And I think you want to give them some insane weapons to do that, because Jedi are pretty formidable.
Right.
And so it serves a purpose now. So I actually enjoy seeing them now.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like I love the aesthetic of it. I like the fighting style that they've given them with these things. I think the question that we've always talked about is whether or not people can actually fly with them as they did in Star Wars Rebels, because it was only in Rebels that we saw them do that. And so
Mhm.
far, all the Inquisitors that we've seen since then have never been able to fly, and it's a touchy subject, much like midichlorians was after episode 1, they don't bring it up much, but
Right.
I bring all that up to say, like, I'm still waiting. Like, I'm actually in favor of the helicopter lightsabers and being able to fly with them. Like, sure, whatever. I mean, if I'm already believing everything else in Star Wars, why not, right?
Why not? Exactly.
So, I'm hoping that they'll continue that on, because I don't want it to be just something that was dead and buried in Rebels and we never see again. So hopefully Merrick will take flight at some point.
I mean, could it have been feedback? I mean, because we know now.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of feedback about
Yeah,
this is silly and
it's
doesn't make
silly.
any
And
sense.
then not to mention that before that, there was the whole backlash of Leia Poppins from The Last Jedi,
Right.
and that all kind of played into each other. Although, if I saw it again and if it had a purpose, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I thought it was. I don't want to say I thought it was like hokey or anything. I just thought, well, I didn't think it could do that, But if we do see him take flight as with a lightsaber helicopter, I as long as it served a purpose, I would be okay with it.
Okay, and to further this 10-minute dialogue breakdown of helicopter lightsabers, if you go out and search Pablo Hidalgo helicopter lightsaber or Inquisitor lightsaber, there's some stuff he said where he explains the technology and how they're able to flight. It has nothing to do with the actual blades, but the actual hilt itself and all this other stuff. So they found a way to explain it. So anyways, all right, we're going to get on because we don't want to spend all this time on
Talking
my
about
fault. It's my fault. I brought it up. Okay. We get Maul looking very upset here. He kind of looks like Ellen DeGeneres. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if that's really, if that was intentional or not, but he says, we survive, goes on, but do not live. And he says, the Emperor wants you dead, is where he's delivering this. And we get this kind of quick shot here of some shuttles coming into, I'm assuming this is Jarek's, because if you look in the background there, you can see the crater, right? They mentioned this in the article. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about this, but Jarek's is a city that's built into a crater on some planet, right? And so you can see the crater wall there in the background. So who this is, I don't know, but it definitely looks like this could fit the description of Jarek's based on what we got in the article. Maul doesn't do anything but just jump down here. I think they were just trying to extend the trailer out. So, okay, cool jump, dude. Whatever.
It's very Batman.
He's very Batman, right? So he says chains can be broken. And then we get somebody say, hang on, this is Devin. This is where I mentioned she's flying that ship now, right? The one that she took the lid off of. Oh, the lid's closed now. So maybe she just opened it and didn't really pull it off all completely. But she pulls on, see, it looks like to be a gunship if this is the same shot, but you got another gunship right behind it shooting at it. So I assume that's the case. And I would assume this is also that gentleman again, right? The mustache guy.
Mustache guy. Yep.
Yeah, he's got a name, but I'm tired of looking at the credits or the show notes here.
And and if that was his shot, he's a good shot.
Right through the glass on that little window there and shot that stormtrooper. And then, oh, that's cool. Didn't make the pull up on that one. Maybe he couldn't because he was dead, or maybe it's a different shot. But I'm not sure what's going on here. What do you see in this shot?
So what that looks like to me is that it looks like we have like a warring gang, a gang war happening, and then it looks like behind the doors are like Stormies waiting to come in, because I don't see troopers on that bridge where we see the blaster fire. Not to mention, we see yellow blaster fire and red coming from individuals that aren't stormtroopers. So that's where I think it's two warring gangs and stormtroopers trying to make their way in there to assert themselves, but they're blocked off.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I was looking at the group on the far left. They look the way they move almost looks like droids. Like they don't look like humans walking. I could be wrong, but either way, they do seem to be fighting. They could be stormtroopers as well. The cool thing is if you look down here at the stormtroopers in the bottom right-hand corner, you can actually see a couple of them trying to splice open
the door.
Yeah, to get in.
And now that you've actually hit a couple of frames, those to the right, I'm sorry, to the left of the scene, they could be stormtroopers, because when they shoot their blaster, you have that aura of light there. You can kind of see a little white in those objects there. They could be stormtroopers, and maybe the ones that are trying to splice the door open are their reinforcements.
Yeah, trying to pin them in. Okay. It's a cool shot. I mean, who knows what's going on here? It's just one of those really good. I love everything about it, though. I mean, the water going down in the background looks
Yeah,
to be on
it's
Jarek's.
this was a scene that again I thought it was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
For animation, it is gorgeous.
And then we get the last part of this where Maul says, he says, chains can be broken and empires can be shattered. And we get the money shot here, which was the coolest shot. I mean, come on. You got Maul, blocking a couple of blaster bolts here, and then he just flings his lightsaber with all his might. It twirls around.
This is what I want.
Cuts these three, blokes in half.
Oh my gosh. Look at that.
Yeah.
No mercy there.
None. I mean, that's Darth Maul right there. We got to see him. He's already got a couple down over there. You can see them on the ground there, but yeah.
Yeah, but like here, split and
1, 2.
Yep, split
3.
and split. No mercy. That's awesome.
And then it just follows, it follows that lightsaber right back into his hand as he goes and parries from behind one of Merrick's shots. So,
right.
We get to see Maul doing what he does best.
Now, here's the thing. Look, watch this. He busts something with his saber. Is that Merrick's saber? Is that his torso? What happens here?
Yeah, so I looked at this. It's not Merrick. Here's why.
Oh,
if you look at Merrick's waist, he doesn't have that utility belt with the pouches on.
Okay.
And so when we cut here, this person definitely, now they both have shoulder pads or shoulder plate armor or whatever, but this person's sticks out way more. So I'm assuming this is going to be one of those security guard people that we've been talking about.
That makes sense.
It looks more in line with that uniform, but this is, Star Wars doing what Star Wars does with teaser trailers, and they splice things together and get everybody talking that, oh my gosh, Maul just killed Merrick or cut Merrick in half, but that's not the case here.
Right. Yeah. And now actually seeing it in slow motion, you can obviously see it wasn't him. And going frame by frame, you can see it wasn't him. But this was good editing here to try to give us the shaft here.
Oh man, they do it every time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I can't wait to see this fighting. Like, and if it's action packed, I have a feeling we're going to see, especially with the Inquisitors, the introduction of the Inquisitors. Right. We're going to see a lot more Jedi fights and Jedi battles, lightsaber battles. I should say not like Jedi, but lightsaber battles, which are always something that I love, and it's eye candy for all of us, I think. But yeah, look at him just standing there stoically. All right. Yeah. He talks about the chains being broken, which it could be a play on the Sith code, but it could also be a play on, feeling chained down by the Empire, right? Or feeling, trying to appease and appeal to Devon and say, you're chained and you're shackled by the Empire and I can set you free. I can break you free. You just got to follow me, become my apprentice kind of thing. So, but yeah, that's how it ends. And we get the cool title screen coming April 6th. So for Maul, maybe as we kind of wrap up here, I guess the one thing that I just want to point out, I think for me, I don't know where the series is going to go, where it's going to end ultimately. I would love to see Darth Maul rise to power by the end of this series, but not necessarily, maybe we end on the cliffhanger of somebody like Darth Vader saying, I'm going to head down to Jarek's now, right? Or whatever. But I want to see that rise to ascension. That might be too quick. If we're only getting 10 episodes, I don't know that we'll be able to get the full rise to ascension, maybe within at least this pocket of Jarek's and whatever syndicate group he's trying to take over, right? Maybe that's as minimal as we get. But at some point, he becomes the main person in all the syndicates, right? By the time we get to like Crimson Reign and all that. So Crimson Dawn, yeah. He seems to have put himself in that position. So I'd love to see that this series kind of continues on with that, right? It's episodic in the sense that we get to see him every season take on a new aspect of rising to power, similar to what we got with, like, I don't know if you saw Daredevil and the Kingpin, right? His storyline and how he rose to power. I'd love to see more of that, right? Where they really focus in, like, yes, I'm all for the lightsaber and stuff, but let's double down on the crime syndicate stuff and his rise to ascension in that crime syndicate and the underworld by the time we get into like a season 2 or maybe even a season 3, should they want to go that far. I don't like the idea of Vader coming in just yet, especially earlier on in the season, because I think it's like Luke Skywalker. Once Vader shows up, right? And if you watch the behind the scenes stuff from the Clone Wars season 2, where Twilight of the Apprentice, right? When Vader comes surfboarding in on that TIE fighter, Filoni said it himself, like once you introduce him, you've got to do something with him. Right. And it changes the dynamic of everything. And rightfully so. I mean, he's an absolutely powerhouse character and somebody you expect to do that. So I think it would change the maybe the genetic code of this, or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but it would certainly change the tone of this series once you
Right.
introduce somebody like Darth Vader. I'm not saying I don't want it. I'd love to see a Vader Maul fight, knowing especially that Maul would somehow find his way to get out of that fight, even though it is Vader. That's really intriguing because we know he's going to live on, right? But I think it's a little too soon. I want to see some other stuff happen first. I want to see him, give him his time, give him his space to kind of play around in this area of the underworld and again rise to power. But I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Where do you feel like this series could potentially end or go by the time we get to the episode 10?
So yeah, I agree. I think what we need to see here are the first steps he takes to get that start to ascend to that level of power that we see him in Solo as head of Crimson Dawn. I think maybe he with this series again, he takes those first steps and then he's head of or maybe he gains some notoriety, he gains some power, but it's not as powerful as he can be. Because remember, he becomes real powerful in the underworld, and then like I said, we see him in Rebels and he essentially has fallen again.
Broken.
He's broken. So it can't be too quick. And I think that if he was like, kind of like the issue I had with Book of Boba Fett, where he became the daimyo like in the middle of that season, and
Yeah.
he was the guy in charge, and then everyone was gunning for him. You kind of expected that at that point. I think they need to take their time, especially if they have a second season plan, which we don't know. But I think a good story would be just to see what he does with Devon and how he takes that first step into trying to become the most powerful individual in the Star Wars underworld. I think that first step is what we need to see. And I agree with you about Vader. I honestly don't want to see him this season. I think again, if you bring him in, even as a cliffhanger at the end,
You got to deal with him.
you got to deal with him the whole rest of the series.
Yeah.
If I were Filoni, I would say, look, that's our money shot to end the thing, and then maybe Vader has a hand in knocking him down to the bottom again.
Right.
That's
Breaking
kind of
him.
what breaking him exactly. That I could see that being fitting, but no, let's. I mean, we can have rumblings of like, oh, Lord Vader this, Lord Vader that, coming from the Inquisitors. That's fine, but to actually have Vader show up, I think they need to hold that card until we get close to the end of the entire series, the show itself.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Keep it in the back pocket.
Exactly.
Yep.
Because
Until we
you're
have
right.
to.
A lot of people are looking at this as an opportunity to see that hypothetical, conflict that, we've been having since 1999, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it'd be cool to see, but let's not shoot our shot too soon, because then that causes problems for the rest of the story.
Yeah. And I think at this point, I mean, I think both characters are aware of each other, right?
Right.
Vader's aware that Maul is still out there, and Maul's aware that he's been betrayed by Palpatine, and that Anakin Skywalker has become Darth Vader and supplanted him as is the heir to the Empire kind of thing. Whoa, look at that, me bringing an heir to the Empire. But so yeah, they're aware of each other, but I like the fact that it's still a cat and mouse game, and it certainly I like them to play up that tension, like you said, and then maybe in future seasons or whatever. Storytelling, we can finally get that battle. I'm not saying again I don't want it. I want it. I definitely want it. I can't wait I would love to see those two fight off, battle each other and see where that lands, but not yet.
Yeah.
Let's let this thing breathe and rest, if you will.
And let it earn its stripes. Let's not try to throw a knockout punch in the first round, and then you have the higher probability of missing, and then again it could mess up the whole series. Let's let it earn its stripes, let it gain its stride, and then at the appropriate time bring in that heavy hitter on the other side to actually be the climax of this story versus bringing it in at the beginning.
Yep. All right. Well, we're coming up on an hour and a half. So thanks for, first off, for everybody that joined us in the chat. I want to say thank you to, let me call everybody out here. So Dale, One Up versus CPU, My Star Wars Guys, Only Vader's Girl. Alex was here for a little bit. Q66 was with us tonight. Rezakai was with us as well. And I think it's everyone else. I know there were a lot of people that came in. So thank you guys for tuning in. Certainly be sure to give us a like down here. Subscribe to the channel if this is the stuff that you like. We'd love to do more for you, of course. And then consider Patreon as well, if you don't mind. We've got a bunch of stuff out there in the back catalog of Patreon. episodes, and we've got more future Patreon episodes coming up. And this is a series that honestly, you know, we're going to do all the breakdowns as public shows, but then we'll have Patreon exclusives that get into more of the weeds, although we do get into the weeds quite a bit. We'll get into the weeds even further with the breakdown episodes. And so what I want to do is similar to what we've done in episodes or series past. We'll actually take some aspect of an episode, or maybe 2 episodes as the case may be with this one, and turn that into an actual Patreon episode where we get more into the weeds and dive into more detail there. So all of that still to come. And final plugs here. Lauren again has her sneak peek of Outlaws Low Red Moon. That's out already on YouTube. You can go check that out right now. She will have the full review coming on February 3rd when that book releases. It's Mike Chen. I know this guy's awesome, man. I'm telling you, you got to read it. He's such a good writer. He did Brotherhood, which was the Anakin and Kenobi story, and he's done some other stuff as well, some short stories. But take a look at that book when it comes out if you're interested. There's going to be an excerpt. Actually, I think it was released today, if I'm not mistaken. They released the first excerpt from Low Red Moon. So that's available too. You can take a look at that. And then, yeah, this weekend, Chris will be back on the show. We'll have some folks from Patreon and some veterans of Galaxy's Edge. And we're going to talk about all the changes that are coming to Galaxy's Edge with regard to the original trilogy characters coming back, some of the changes that they're making aesthetically to the park. And we'll talk about just, Disney parks in general and some of the tips and things that you should be aware of if you guys are planning on going. So that should be a lot of fun to talk about as well. Chris, I'm going to end it there. You got any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say about Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord?
Other than I was blown away today. It's been a long time since a trailer for an animated show has blown me away. I am complete. I was excited for it when I saw the sizzle reel last April. I am like, I can't wait till this April when it comes around and the show debuts on April 6th. I'm totally stoked, and I can't wait for it to get here. I think we're going to be in for a real treat. And this is going to be like, Filoni's first project, even though it started a couple of years ago. It's coming out where he is the co-president of Lucasfilm, and this is one of his first babies. So I'm curious to see what the fandom will take out of this first project that he is overseeing as the co-president.
Yeah. I mean, if it's like anything else, Star Wars fans will hate it. But those of us that are good will actually enjoy it and talk about all the positives. So I'm with you, man. I'm looking forward to it. I've been a fan of Filoni's work ever since Star Wars Rebels. I mean, the Clone Wars, but I didn't really know that he was doing so much there. But Star Wars Rebels really stuck with me. It continues to be my favorite animated series. Some of those characters are some of my favorite characters now. Love that series to death. I love the Ahsoka series. I love what he did with the Mandalorian. So in my book, he's really knocked it out of the park every time. He hasn't been perfect, but there's certainly a lot more of what I love. And I love the fact that he was under the tutelage of somebody like George Lucas. And I feel like, that spirit is still there in Star Wars. I suspect that'll be the same thing with this series, but to your point, I can't wait to see what he comes out with later on and this new role as co-president. So all good things, and the future certainly looks bright for Star Wars, at least from my opinion.
Definitely.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to end it there. Thank you guys again so much for joining us, and we'll see you this weekend for Patreon members on the next episode.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.